Hey, what's happening, you guys? If you came to this podcast, the Proclivity Podcast, you're in the right spot because you're listening to my voice. I'm your host, Joel Cochran, here with an incredibly talented co-host, Emily Rodella. Coach Emily, how's your day going?
Oh, thanks. Thanks for asking. It's going swimmingly.
Swimmingly. I'm going to tell a quick story.
Perfect.
Let me back up. I tend to go for walks without a shirt on. Okay. It stirred the pot a little bit here in the office we're in, because at one point I had my shirt off and I came into the office and somebody didn't like it so much. That's okay. We're over it. Yet I am known around Midtown for walking without my shirt on or off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just before we started this podcast, we got a text message. Mutual friend, Emily and I. And they pointed out and they said, does Joel ever wear a shirt? Mind you guys, I'm walking next to Emily. Emily, did you have a shirt on?
No, it's very hot out.
It's very hot out and we love our vitamin D.
Yep.
Yet I'm the one who gets pointed out for not having a shirt on. There's a smoking hot babe next to me with her shirt off, and I get pointed out. What kind of sexist stuff is going on right now? Anyways, that's my story of the day, and we got more stories for you later. That's a guaranteed. Emily, how pumped are you about episode 80?
I'm very pumped. If I were to choose one area of improvement for myself, this subject today is it, for sure.
And, Emily, you're not alone. Being able to be decisive when it comes to making a decision is huge. It could be small decisions, right? Do I get this vegetable or this vegetable? Or it could be as big as, do I get divorced? Do I leave my job? Is this the relationship I want to be in? Whoa, that gets real heavy real quick. Yet learning and having the tools, the clarity, and the truth to be able to make a decisive decision helps tremendously, not only in your life, but also with your self-identity. And we talk about that quite often, right? The identity of it. Mm-hmm. And we got a special guest who's going to help us be able to recognize those tools, who is a magician when it comes to words and language and coaching and mindset. I am super pumped about the guest that we have on today. Mm-hmm. Yet, before we get into it, let me give you a little background. Nico Maier is a good friend of ours. And as an elite youth baseball player at the age of 15, Nico represented NSW and traveled to Fort Lauderdale for a training camp with the MLB team, the Florida Marlins. Sport has always been an integral part of Nico's life. After graduating as a sports dietitian from the university, Nico began building the Youth Academy, which supported 10,000 youth athletes with their development as humans from 2016 to 2020. He was blessed to coach international, national, state, and local representatives, as well as work alongside other class coaches to develop his incredible skills. Since 2020, Nico has been developing his skills further and specializes in supporting CrossFit athletes to develop and optimize the mental and emotional side of their health and performance to help them make great decisions and perform their best both in training and in life. Nico has just published his first book, The Decentralized Mind, Optimizing Mindset and Performance in Suboptimal Conditions. So, without further ado, that is quite the background. Y'all better be excited for this. I want to welcome to the show, Nico. Nico, what's happening, brother?
Beautiful humans. Thank you very much
Here we
for
are.
the opportunity to be here. It's a beautiful Thursday morning here in Australia. I'm so excited. Let's do this.
We're right in. And one of the things we love talking to Nico, and Nico has helped us out a ton. And one of the things I love talking to Nico about is that he's always in the future. Because right now, it's tomorrow where you live.
The sun is shining. The birds are singing. The monkeys haven't taken over yet.
Ah,
Everything is safe and secure. So if anything were to happen in the future, I will let you know so that you can prepare yourself inside 16 hours or whatever the time difference is.
We appreciate that.
yeah, we fully receive that. And we are definitely looking out for the monkeys. There's no doubt about that. Nico, such an impressive, background and where you've come from. We've worked with you extensively, and in your background of sports as a dietitian, you could have taken it many different routes. How did you get to the point that you're in right now?
By choosing courage and following my heart. I have had a lot of opportunities present themselves to me, and I can reflect back and observe that it's the times that I failed to do that, I allowed my mind and rationality to make a choice for me, that I ended up in a destination that I did not want to be in. And I have continually found myself back to where I want to be based on courage and based on heart.
Those two words right there, it's a beautiful prelude. It takes some courage to make the decisions that you have made, and you have made multiple of them. When it comes to making a decision, is that something that people need to have? Is courage? Is that a tool? Do people actually need courage? Do they not when it comes to making a decision in life?
It's essential. it's vital, especially if we are the type of person who loves ourselves, who values ourselves, and who goes after what we want. Because one of the things that we will discover is that the environment around us and society may not, and it's highly likely that they do not want what is best for us. So there is the rational, natural part of ourselves that craves safety and security. So at times, if we let courage be on the back burner and not at the forefront of our mind, we will fall into that safety and security instead of going after what it is that we want for ourselves.
And that you touched a great point in safety and security. That's a lot of things that we talk about in proclivity, is that if you don't feel safe and secure, you're going to end up in narrow mindset, this fight or flight kind of situation where you don't see all the options. You don't see the different options when it comes to food or how you envision yourself. It's just locked in. You're in this threat mode. And I want to talk a little bit about decision fatigue. Decision fatigue is something that we have talked about in terms of hey, when it comes to visiting a website or when it comes to trying to decide, if there's too many options, it can get fatiguing, and then people are backing out. They don't feel safe. They're unsure. They don't know, and they're backing out. What do you think is the reason? You touched a little bit on in terms of society. What do you think is the reason so many people struggle with making decisions?
On a first principles level, like if we break it down to very, very, very basics, it is that we have so much information to process. There is so many inputs coming in, even at the moment. There's the environment around us, there's the audio, there's the visual, there's the somatic experiences, there's what we're feeling. So there's all of this information, and we want to efficiently process it as fast as possible so that we can move on to the next thing. And inside of that, we need to save energy, because to process information is very, very, very energy consuming. So I want to make the fastest and the best choice that I can. So if there's too many options, I'm simply not going to make an option because that's the easiest thing for me to do. So if I'm faced with two, it's very simple, because I say, do I want this or do I want this? And then I can say, well, which of those best aligns with the outcome that I'm after or my goal? Do I want the small or the large? I'm the type of person who gets the small, so I get the small. Easy, simple decision. Throw a third one in there, and now, okay, it's a little bit different. However, this is where many companies will use like a pricing structure to move us towards making the choice that they want us to make. So they have like a decoy effect psychologically. So there'll be the small and the large, and let's say the small's $1, the large is $3. If they want to sell more larges, they'll push the medium size closer to the large, so that the large seems like great value. And if they want to sell more of the mediums, they'll make the medium and they'll push it closer to the small, the price of the small, because then it seems like a great deal. So they know that we crave efficiency, because to make a choice and to process information is so energy heavy.
And we don't have a ton of, I mean, in our society, it's go, 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 go. I don't have any time. I'm way too busy. So then when it comes to making a decision, it's like, I just can't. I want to take me to the point and show me the way and let me just click on the link.
Yeah. Or it's automatic, and this is where, like, I'm going to butcher who said it. I don't know whether it was like Hippocrates or someone, but it was, you fall back to the level of your training. Okay, so many people can represent that in a physical aspect. Yeah. Like if I'm competing, I'm going to fall back to the level of my training.
Right.
However, we can also look at this from a psychological concept of, I'm going to fall back to the level of understanding that I have of myself and my automatic unconscious patterns and behaviors. And this is why the work that you guys do is so powerful, and essentially it's a missing piece for many people, because I'll fall back to the identity that I have and the story I tell myself about myself and the type of person that I am. So if I can rewire that, then my whole decision-making framework changes, because this is just who I am. This is who I am. This is what I do. These are the decisions that I make. My unconscious automatic baseline has shifted so that I end up making better choices because I am this type of person.
That's so interesting, because the first thing I thought of when you're saying that, Nico, is like the person who's in a crappy relationship, but their identity is, I'm loyal. That identity can be something that holds somebody back from making a decisive decision as much as it can move us forward to a decisive decision, correct?
Correct.
So when it comes to, okay, now we're getting some traction here. When it comes to a decisive decision, it really comes back to being able to know what's my identity. And if the identity is not aligning with that decision, it makes it really hard to make that decision.
Mm-hmm. The reason for that is let's continue go down this rabbit hole and use this path. I'm in a relationship that may not serve me the best. I identify as someone who's loyal, so therefore I'm going to be loyal. However, as you know, identity is so multivariate. So I may also identify as someone who loves themselves and who values themselves and, puts themselves first. And now we have tension, we have stress in the system because I love myself. I'm not valued in this relationship, but I'm loyal. It's stress at both end of the spectrum. And now we go, well, what the hell do I do? Because I don't want to be unloyal and leave, but I also need to value myself. So now we need to accurately process this information so that we can choose a better response. And we need to understand that, okay, if I truly know myself and I value myself, what is going to benefit me the most, even though there are other people involved? It comes down to this collapsed distinction of service versus sacrifice. How much longer am I going to sacrifice myself and my happiness based on this story I'm telling myself about what I think I need to do? Because now we're bringing in, I imagine, what are other people going to say about me if I were to leave this relationship? Isn't there all of these stories and these memes from society that, relationships are like this and nice people see it through and I'm going to fight for it and I'm going to battle for it? And then you shift that story and you say, what if you were to fight for you? And what if you were to go to battle for what you wanted, which would be you standing up to yourself, for yourself, going after what you wanted and understanding that other people's opinions and perspectives will come into that, and that will be challenging. However, if you're not happy in the relationship, have the difficult conversation and be loyal to yourself and what you want. And then from there, you may have to make a difficult choice of, do I choose to transition away from this relationship because it's not something that serves me?
And how do people get to that, like, how do people get through, I should say, that difficult decision? They've acknowledged it, right? The awareness has been brought into. You said a really great point in terms of standing up to yourself, of what are other people going to think? No. What are you going to think? What can you do with your empowerment? How do they get through that point, that restrictive point? They're sitting there like, oh man, I really feel like I should do this, and I see my clarity in this. Is that where that courage comes in, or is it like 3, 2, 1, jump?
We're right back full circle where courage comes in, and where breath comes in, and where words come in. So that we can create the space inside that moment to have the courage to choose a new response. Because if we fail to do that, the cycle continues to play itself out. And I imagine that the majority of listeners may be familiar with Jordan Peterson. He's quite dominant in the market today, where he says that if you continue to put confrontation off, it is going to grow. And that is essentially what you're choosing. By choosing to not make a decision, you are allowing that dragon to grow until it gets to a point where you will either resent the other person, or you'll resent yourself, or Mount Vesuvius will blow.
Yes. And that tends to happen for a lot of people when it comes to the hard decisions, is that they'll wait until it's just like breathing down their throat, or the castle has collapsed, or the mountain has blown. And then it's like, well, I have nothing else. And so now I have to make a decision. Yet, does that leave them with any change, or does it actually create more doubt, inner doubt, because they're like, oh, and now the story is like, I tried to be loyal, and then it all blew up on me.
Yeah, so it can go that way. It could go anyway, based on, as we know, the story that we tell ourselves. Like we're meaning making machines as humans, so the experience is going to happen, and I am going to create the meaning and attach a meaning to that experience based on what are my beliefs, how have I been conditioned in the past, what have I learned, what's my perspective of the world, what's my perspective of myself, where essentially all that's happened is an experience has happened, and now there's more information that's come in that I can use to make a better choice in the future. It's a lesson that's been learned. I allowed this situation to get to this point, and this happened. Along the way, there were the feathers dropping and the bricks being thrown about, hey, I should do something about this. Excellent. I know what happens when I don't. I find myself in a similar situation in the future. I now have that information about this is what is potentially coming. If I want to change it so that I, negation acknowledge, don't have to go through that again, I'm going to choose a different response. I'm going to have the difficult conversation earlier, or I'm going to value myself enough to remove myself from the situation earlier.
And that takes courage.
Yes.
Also, I'm really interested in your thought and opinion on this. There are times that I will actually have clients write out multiple options. And when I mean multiple, I say you have to have at least 5 options. And the reason that I do this is that sometimes we have the, do I stay or do I go? And we can get so pigeonholed on those are my only options. Do I stay or do I go? That we don't give ourselves the ability to go, well, what if this? Or what if that? Or what if we went this direction or that direction? Do you feel that that's a good exercise to be able to have expansive options? Or would that cause more confusion? Because we talked about consumer decision fatigue. Yet when it comes to a really large decision, do I stay or do I go? Do I take this business opportunity or do I not? Can it be beneficial to write out a multitude of options where you really start getting creative beyond like the wild type of options instead of just this or that, black or white?
Yeah, when there is consciousness involved and there is context and there is intent, like I'm sitting down to do this, I want as much information as possible in front of me because this is what matters to me right now. So inside of that moment, we are not in the fight or flight, stressed out response of I need to make a quick choice. We are coming into it with the intent of I'm going to give this my full attention because this is something that I want to solve right now. So on that positive standpoint, it's saying, what are all of the possibilities? Like, what could I do? And now I entertain that thought and I have all of that information in front of me. And now if I know my capital S self, then I can make an informed choice about what I want, which removes what I think I have to do or what's going to impress other people or what do they want for me or all of these, anti-rational memes that I may have learned from society. And that's a process that I make decisions through. I remove all of that and I look at them and I go, right now, this is the choice. So that's what I'm going to commit myself to. But now I'm also going to have the courage to know that I could be wrong about that and that 3 months down the track, something is going to happen and I may get to pivot. Fantastic. That's what I'm open to. And like, we can frame this on the negative side as well, which can often move people to making a choice. There's the exercise of fear setting, because quite often we get into decision because of the volatile, uncertain, chaotic, ambiguous nature of life. I don't know what's going to happen next. We never do. That's a guarantee. The only certainty is that all things will be uncertain in the next moment. So I can sit there and I can write out all the things that I'm scared of. This is what I'm worried is going to happen. And then I can take a breath and I can look at those and I can say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the likelihood that it would happen or that it could happen? And we start to see that, it's a 5 out of 10 or it's a 6 out of 10. Okay, cool. If it were to happen, how bad would it be? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad would it be? Oh, well, it's only like a 3. Or it is a 10. But then you take the next point and you say, what can I do now to minimize this? Or what would I do if it were to happen? And we start to go, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. I can invert my thinking so that if I don't do these things, then I'm in a situation where it's not going to happen. And then we completely reframe it and we say, okay, what's the cost of inaction? Like, if I don't make a change, where am I going to be in 3, 6, or 12 months or 3 years' time? And that often creates the emotion that people need now that they see that the reality that they were imagining is not as bad as what they thought it was, and that will move them into action. So it's the exact process that I took myself through when we were making the move in the youth academy from the facility that we were in at the time, which was about $3,000 a month, to the dream facility of $15,000 a month. Massive jump. And I took myself through this entire process. And due to it, I then was able to have the courage to make the choice. And I am so glad that I did, despite the fact that 3 months after we got in there, COVID happens and, we lose 80% of revenue overnight, all our school contracts, sporting contracts, and that experience happens for me. And the reason being is that the reality on the other side, even with like the thing that was highly unlikely to happen, but if it did, it was an 11 out of 10, it actually happened and everything's been okay. Everything's been fine. How good is that knowing now moving forward that I make it work? That's what I learned from in that moment, from choosing courage and from going through this decision-making process. I learned that I am the type of person who figures it out, who finds a solution, and who makes it work. What a gift.
Wow. Emily, what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's something we are constantly talking about. I put out there in our first week in our program, we asked the question, are you interested or are you committed? Right. And this is also something to think about when making a decision too, of being like, okay, well, if I'm interested, then yeah, maybe I'll give a percentage to it. Maybe I'll try here and there. But if you're committed, you will do all that you can, even in the absence of resources. Even if you, like you said, had zero funding, everything went away, you will still figure out a way to make it work, no matter what, and input any situation in there, right, for whatever it is in your life.
I agree. And it's like that. It's like a mother who has her child. Their identity is, I'm a mother. This is my child. I will do anything. That identity is solidified. And so throw whatever you want at that mom, right? We have the stories, right? The mom who worked the 2 jobs to take care of a kid. There was nothing that was going to stop that mom, because the identity was exactly that. I will die taking care of my children. My children will have a safe place. I will save every penny to make sure my kids are in the place of success. And that comes back again to that identity piece of being able to have truth and clarity with yourself. And when you have those two pieces of truth and clarity with yourself, sprinkle in a little bit of courage. Ask these questions that Nico just took us through, which is genius. And you're going to find on the other end, wait a second, regardless, even if you go through these questions, and regardless, we know the life is uncertain. Yet if you have the identity that I move forward, I keep going, I steady my walk, go ahead and let whatever life's going to throw at you. You're going to be less worried about the outcome and more worried about how you get through that given set of circumstances.
Beautifully said. And it's where I imagine that a lot of the listeners are saying, okay, I can understand all of this, but why is it still so hard? Like, why is it so hard to make choices? Especially, why is it hard to make the difficult choice? And this is where, inside the book, it outlines the 7 core challenges about why that's hard. The first is that we don't know ourselves. And if I don't know myself, I can't make a choice that's in alignment with that. Like, I have all of these different parts of myself, like my ego, my judge, my hyper rational, my perfectionist, my people pleaser, all those things that aren't me, but are a part of me, and I give too much weight to. The next part is that we don't know that we know almost no thing. You know, there's so much information out there that we're not processing, and yet we think that we do know it all and we have all of the information. The third is then that our attention, there's a war for it. And as you said, if I'm continually in a fight or flight sympathetic state, then my energy is not going to be directed, and I'm not going to process the information accurately and efficiently. Then we have the irrational memes of society about how we think the world is, about who we think we need to be. We have the education system, which is continually telling us those things, and the media system, which is continually publishing those things. So we're creating a perspective and a worldview of what the world is like, but it's inaccurate. And we're creating a perspective and a worldview of what we are like as individuals, which is inaccurate, which causes an identity crisis. I think I am this way, but it's not who I am. And there's so much tension now inside of our own internal ecosystem because of it, which then reflects to our external ecosystem. And then our inability to learn from history allows the cycles to continually repeat out. So if I can understand all of those, just that they exist, and I bring the attention back and reflect to myself, and I say, this is an inside job, my ability to understand myself first is what matters most, because now I can show up to any experience, to any environment, and know that I'm going to do the best that I can. I will accurately process all the information in front of me. I'll efficiently process it. I'll understand that even doing that, I have blind spots, but I'm going to respond the best that I can to it. And that's it at the end of the day.
And it's that confidence of being able to respond. It's very interesting that you said that keyed in on that is that ability to trust yourself, that if and when things don't go as planned or the way that you made that decision, thinking, okay, I'll make this decision. Okay, I'm going to get on the freeway. I'm going to head west, right, to get to my destination. and there's a crash. There's a crash on the freeway. You didn't have control over the crash. You had control of the decision to be able to make that. How are you going to respond to the decision that you took the freeway instead of the back streets, and now you're in a crash and you're backed up for hours? What's your ability to be able to respond to that? Because I can imagine out there, Nico, that a lot of people they have decision regret, right? Mm-hmm. They're like, okay, I did what Nico said, right? What are the chances, right? How bad can it actually be? How good could it actually be? I did all the whole thing. I made the decision. Oh, fudge. That really turned out poorly. I don't trust myself anymore. Does that happen with, well, one, has it happened with you? Two, does it happen with your clients? And how do we get through that?
100% it happens. It happened a lot with myself, and it still does. I will observe that there are times where, like, it's hindsight bias that happens, and it's I should have known. It's like, but how could I? Like, honestly.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And that's where it's the judge part of myself that is speaking. You should have known. Like, how could you not have known that this was going to happen? It was always a potentiality. Yeah, but how was I to know? Like, right. Seriously, come on. Like, but that right there is one of the anti-rational memes that we have had either parented to us or shown to us from society, of this is how you relate to yourself and this is how you treat yourself. Like, think of how many times we've had that mirrored to us from other people's behaviors. God, I always do that. I'm terrible in these situations. I should get it right the first time. It's like, no, you shouldn't. You should understand that you made the best choice that you could with the information available to you at that point in time. And now new information has come in, and you can now make a more educated choice in the future. Like, getting it right the first time, oftentimes it's luck.
So true.
And if I'm continually telling myself the story that I have to get it right the first time, think about the pressure system that creates internally. And who said that you have to? And what's the likelihood? Tell me one person who has always gotten it right the first time. And this is where we'll go to social media, because we see into other people's lives, and we'll use that as evidence. And then you say, yeah, but you're only seeing a small portion of it.
Right.
And now we're in a matrix of creating understanding and depth for ourselves, where we can start to create a more accurate representation of reality, which allows us to then make a better choice as well.
Emily, have you ever felt that way when it comes to, man, I got to do this right the first time?
Oh, yeah. So I'll talk about the nutrition side, because I run into that a lot with myself and with clients, of course. But yeah, starting my own business, right? I was like, wow, a lot's weighing on this. If I don't get this right, there's financial things at stake, right? With my family. I have a family now. And definitely in that. And then I see it very often with clients in nutrition being like, oh, I have to eat the perfect diet. It's like, no, everyone's different. We do experiments, see what works, what doesn't work. This is literally like the foundations of what we talk about and what we teach. It's like, let's do a little experiment. Let's see what happens. What worked, what didn't work, and move on from there. It's always a learning experience. But having that perspective of like, hey, this might go wrong, this might go right. No, that's okay. Either way. So it's foundational.
Super foundational. And one of the things that we say in Proclivity, right, is curiosity over conflict. Stay curious. Stay curious. Yeah, it's so easy. Again, what Nico's talking about, in those 7 different, are they are they truths? Are they steps? What is it in the decentralized book?
Simply the 7 challenges that we face, and if we look at them from a flow-on effect, if we start with ourself and we understand ourselves, we'll then start to realize that we know nothing. The reason for that is because of all these heuristics, and then we get into the anti-rational memes and
Yes.
the identity crisis, and we look back on the education system. As you said, the education system numbs curiosity for compliance. And we wonder why there's so many adults who are experiencing what you just expressed, and why we're trying to reverse that.
Right.
No, go be curious.
Yeah.
Challenge the status quo.
Right. Well, and it starts off at such a young age, and I've seen parents parenting their children at the youngest of age, where kids should be as curious as possible. We don't touch that. You don't do that. This is how we do it. And it's not for the kid, it's for them, because they don't want to be embarrassed if their kid starts having a tantrum or crying or wants to go and play in this area that people are like, that's not where kids play. Well, how come? Right? Why can't kids be curious in, a mall, in the adult shoe area? You want to look at those shoes? Okay, bud, let's look at those shoes together. Let's sit down. Let's untie all of the shoelaces. And then let's see if we can tie them back together. Well, maybe not. In our society, that's like, whoa, that's crazy, and you're not being a good parent. And yet we're allowing that child to have that curiosity and be able to be in that moment where, golly, I really wish a lot more adults would be sitting down and taking out their shoelaces to be more curious about how their shoes work, instead of it is one way or the other. And if this is our curiosity, if our curiosity is that shallow, then conflict is the only other solution, because it has to be a certain way. And without that expansion of thought and trust in inner self, it can be a really tough time making a decision.
Yeah. Like in a sense, here we are again, full circle, that in order to choose to be curious about things, I have to be courageous inside of that. I can't shake this image from my head. Like when you expressed about sitting down with the little kid to take untie the shoelaces, I was picturing you and them like tying them together as a practical joke for people who come in. So it's like, we're going to untie them. And then when we tie them, we're tying the 2 shoelaces together for the 2 shoes, and people are like, what the hell happened here?
Yes.
And I just picture you and this little mini Joel standing over in the back, like corner, laughing, having a heap of fun.
Oh, man. You best believe that. I'll tell you what. I love hanging out with my nephew because he's full on curiosity and is ready to crush the world. And I am the type of uncle that's like, let's crush the world. I got invited one time to swim school, and that was about it, because he wanted to go over and touch all these toys and throw them all into the bottom pool. I was like, rad. And then he was like, over there? And I'm like, yes, over there. Meanwhile, the instructor's behind us like, okay, guys, now we're going to do the swim around in a circle now. And here's Oliver just screaming and splashing and throwing. And every once in a while, I'd bring him over and like, okay, what are we doing? He needs to do what? Oh, he sinks down and then comes back up. And now what do we do? Oh, nothing? You want me to stand around with this child doing nothing? We're going to go back and throw all the toys at the bottom of the pool. And you're going to come back and you're going to line them perfectly on the side of the pool. And we're going to come back and we're going to wreck all of them again. And we're going to jump and we're going to splash and we're going to have a fantastic time. Yet, that was frowned upon in swim school. And I got the notice that maybe I wasn't called out, but I was called out. Maybe Oliver should have the same person take him every time. I was just like, well, at some point, y'all are going to need me again. And guess what? We're going to destroy that swim school once more. And we're going to stay full curious.
This is a beautiful representation, though, because that is a metaphor for life. Swim school had a structure, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
What is the antithesis? What's the opposite of structure? Chaos.
Chaos.
Look at every great story. It is a beautiful dance of chaos and structure. And because of our want for safety and security, we create structure and we don't invite chaos in. I don't want chaos. I don't want it here because it scares me. However, if you look at the story of Sleeping Beauty, the king and the queen essentially sent chaos away. You're not coming into our daughter's life. It was Maleficent. You're not coming in here. We don't want it. Eventually, she finds her way in and makes it fundamentally worse than if they would have allowed her into Sleeping Beauty's life when she was very, very young.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're talking about here. Can I have the courage to go against what I think I have to do?
Mm-hmm.
Can I have the courage to stand up to myself and for myself and do what I want?
Mm-hmm.
And invite that chaos in? Invite the chaos of the uncertainty, of the ambiguity, of the volatility, knowing that I don't control any of this.
Yes.
I only control myself. And can I be okay with that? And can I have the courage to know that doing that is doing the best that I can do at this point in time?
That's beautiful. That is just pure beauty. Because I'm imagining anybody out there who's thinking about a decision that's unknown. It doesn't matter. People want to line up as many pros as possible before they pull the trigger, right? Yet you could have all the pros, and you're still going into chaos because it's uncertain, it's unknown, and that fear of the unknown or the chaos is where that courage again comes up, and that clarity and truth of self is so vitally important, because the tornado could be ripping, yet at the core, if we know who we are, let the chaos around us continue. We're established in exactly who we are.
Here's an interesting question for you both.
Mm-hmm.
When is a time that you have ever truly known? And how did you know? Like, is it possible? Is it possible to know exactly what's going to happen next?
Emily, I mean, you're married and you have a kid, two huge things, and you started a business. Okay, so you got the trifecta of like decisions, and I know that each one had a weight to it. What do you think?
The closest thing that came to 100% sureness is things to do with my son, in terms of, like Joel mentioned earlier, I will do anything for him. And when I think about that, I think about labor. I'm like, it's going to be really hard. I don't know what's going to happen in terms of how it's going to go, through the process. Yet I know I will make it through because I want to meet my son. So that's the one thing that comes to mind. But everything else, no. I have never been 100% sure aside from that.
And that's beautiful. So inside of that moment, what did you have? Starts with a B, ends in an F, and there's an leaf in between.
Belief.
And this is generally what drives choices. If I believe that I can do it, I'm going to. That's it. However, even with that belief, what's it founded on? It's founded on past evidence and past experiences. However, we simply believe that we've done it once, we could do it again, even though we may not be able to. And if we're not careful inside of this, we fall into what's known as inductivism, where it's one of the things is like, I'm certain that tomorrow I'm going to wake up and the sun's going to be there. Or I'm certain that I'm going to wake up tomorrow. I may not. Okay? I may not. I have all of this evidence that for the past 32 and a half years, I've gone to sleep and I've woken up. However, there is a potentiality that I may go to sleep tonight and not wake up. It's highly unlikely, but it is possible. Why do we not have that level of belief when it comes to other things? That's the fundamental question that I'm bringing it back to. The reason that I'm not choosing to do this is I do not believe in myself and my ability to pull it off. Okay, but that should be there for everything because, as I said, with the inductivism, otherwise we become like a turkey. And for 1,000 days, I have woken up and the farmers come over and fed me, and it has been, as Joel would say, the best day ever. However, on that 1,001st day, the exact same thing plays out. The farmer comes. However, he's not there to feed me. It's Thanksgiving Day. I don't know that, and he chops my head off. This is the paradox that we are living in when it comes to decision making. How can I be certain that it's going to happen? I can't. But do I believe enough in myself and my ability to be able to pull it off?
Boom.
What is my identity? What story do I tell myself, about the world, about my potential in it?
Beautiful. So incredibly well said. We've touched on a lot of different things in terms of decision making, some tangible tools. I love what you gave in terms of being able to really ask those questions and really rank it. It's a tool that we use in terms of being able to rank our emotions and feelings and being able to see, like, instead of it just kind of being a vague, like, I'm worried. Well, how worried are you? On a scale of 1 to 10. Oh, 3 worried. Oh, okay. So now we're starting to bring some context to our feelings or to the decisions that we're making. We've also talked about how important it is to have internal clarity and identity and truth within ourselves, because we know that outside of ourselves, the truth is uncertain and chaos will continue. And that regardless of the decisions that we make, we aren't 100% sure with all the evidence that we have that we're not going to end up and our head's going to be cut off. Okay, that might be a little extreme, but that was to the point of the turkey. Yeah, that's something, the hammer is going to fall on the other end. Yet, when we have that internal clarity and confidence, we know that the hammer can come down and we still move forward. And we still have ourselves. And we still can continue with having that identity, just like how we gave about the mother and going, go ahead, throw anything you want at me. Right, Emily? What would you do for Dansby?
Yeah, anything.
Anything. If we had that same feeling for our inner child, I'll do anything for you. I got you. We're getting through this. Imagine what it would be like to be able to make a decision and know, bring the chaos or bring the control, either way, we got this. So go ahead, Nico.
Before we go on, once again, what would you do for Dansby? Anything.
What would I do? Anything.
What
Yeah.
would you do for yourself? Yeah. What would you do for yourself, knowing the role that you play in Dansby's life?
Anything. Yeah.
Exactly. That's the thing. I would do anything for myself. And because I would do anything for myself, I will do anything for Dansby because of the connectedness there.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
It's true. It's true.
So, Nico, if somebody's sitting there right now, they've listened to it, a lot of this is hitting and it's resonating. They're tired of feeling that tension. They're ready for the release. What would you say is the top 3 things, right? You're talking to one of your athletes. You're talking to one of your clients. What are the top 3 things that you would give them, tangible tools to give them, to be able to help them make a decisive decision?
So the first thing that I would do is I would invite them into feeling the emotion fully that they're feeling right now, because it is going to be a negative emotion, which, whilst uncomfortable and whilst it can be labeled that way, it is an emotion. And we are emotional creatures, and the choices that we make are based on that emotion. So the more that we can ramp up that intensity and really feel it, the more inclined we're going to be to want to change it, which is then making a different choice. So, for instance, an example here is an athlete who I supported, and they made the Torian Pro, which is one of the top competitions here in Australia before you go on to make the games. The year before, he went there and worst performance ever. He requalified for it, and he's feeling anxious, worried, stressed. I don't want to experience that again. And he wanted to dissociate from it, just completely detach. So the first thing was, no, I want you to fully feel this. And now what do you want from that? Well, I want this instead. How specific can you get? What do you want specifically? I want you to start picturing it. Well, I want to go there and I want to finish in the top half of the table. Okay, perfect. Who do you now need to be in order to finish in the top half of the table? Well, I need to be a top 10 athlete. Okay, awesome. If you're a top 10 athlete, what do you believe to be true about yourself? Well, I believe I'm capable. I believe I'm strong. I believe I've done the work. I believe I always give my best effort. I believe I'm consistent. I believe that I make great choices. I believe I respond well to stress, pressure, and chaos. Okay, awesome. Now, what do you have to do? Well, I've got 6 months between now and then. Okay, cool. So what do you have to do? Both on the physical and on the mental. Again, get specific. And now how do you feel? Now that that's where your attention is, how do you feel? Well, the anxiety and the worry and everything's gone. Okay, cool. And now what are you going to choose to focus on over the next 6 months? What is your process that you are going to trust that's going to put you in a position to potentially achieve the outcome? Because you may get up there and tick every single box and have the best performance of your life, yet there are 10 other guys who have just stellar performances, and there's nothing that you can do to control that. That's the process. Feel the negativity, understand that if nothing changes, nothing is going to change except for that intensity that you feel. And now shift your attention to what you want. Aim low, make it specific. See how easy and tangible it is for you to take these next steps. Find evidence of how you've done them in the past and you're able to do them again right now. and then have the courage to start doing those things. Now, you've reframed the experience. You are rewiring your response to it. And then over time, you are reinforcing your response so that it becomes second nature, becomes automatic, and it becomes who you are as a person.
Wow. Y'all, those are tangible tools right there. And you still have to have the courage to sit down and do it. You still have to have the courage to go, well, instead of, I'll do it tomorrow, to face it right now. And if you feel like you don't have the courage to be able to face it right now, being able to get some people in your corner to be able to help you through, like Nico, is vital. We got coaches. Our coaches have coaches. Being able to have a team in your corner will help you get the most out of life. If you think that you can do it in your own mind, good luck. Good luck.
Yeah.
You're going to feel all the pressure, all the stress. It's going to be there. And maybe you'll get through and charge through. Yet, you're still going to end up in the same pattern or same loop because you haven't had somebody to come in and go, hold on. Let's reframe this.
And if I may, I'm going to leave people with this. It's a quote, and I have it tattooed on my left forearm. And every year since it's been there, it has grown in intensity and also in clarity. And it is that your life will shrink or expand in proportion to your courage. If you choose courage in the moments that you need to, it will expand for you and become even more beautiful than you could have imagined. If you turn away and fail to choose courage, it's going to shrink.
Nico, man, best day ever, best podcast ever. Emily, what did you think?
Yeah, it's so relatable on so many levels. So many different levels in terms of nutrition, in terms of experimentation with nutrition, fitness, like we talked about in the beginning, relationships, all the decisions. I know everyone got something out of it. And I'm excited to have you back again to chat even more. There's so much more to talk about. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Nico, let the people know you have a book. Is it out yet, or is there a release date? What's going on with that?
So the book is available for pre-order. They can go to Nico Maier, NICOMAIER.xyz, and they will be able to pre-order the book from that site. And it'll get shipped to them automatically. So it's a really, really cool process through a company called Ingram Spark.
Cool. And if people listen to you, they're actually interested. Do they go to interested in working with you? That is, do they go to that same link?
Yeah, so they can go to nicomaier.xyz, or they can go to Instagram. I am back on the gram for the purposes of a project that I am very passionate about, that is adding a missing piece of mental and emotional development to the CrossFit and to the quote-unquote health and fitness world, where everyone is so focused on the physical side of things that they don't understand that it's the mental state that they're in that creates the results that they're after from those physical things. So However, for the listeners that are listening to this, I invite them to reach out to you guys because you guys are world class and the very best at what you do as it pertains to the context of this industry. If there are people who are listening who are quote unquote CrossFitters or identify that way, and they want to go on to perform in the open or go to quarterfinals or semifinals or potentially the games or compete and perform inside the gym, I would love to have a conversation with them. However, if it's about life and everything else, then there are no better people out there than yourselves for that.
Receive that. Thank you
Thanks,
very
Nico.
much. Man, what a
It's a
great
pleasure.
way. What a great way to be able to cap off an incredible podcast. Nico, you are an incredible coach. You're an incredible man. You're an incredible friend to us, and we thank you so much for taking time out of your day, in the future, that is, to be able to be here with us on the Proclivity podcast. It's a huge honor for us to be able to have you here. And guys, if you haven't yet written down that URL, yes, it's XYZ. Get over it. That's going to help you remember it even more. Okay. We got rid of .com a long time ago, guys. It's the new thing. Nick Maier at .xyz. Check it out. Incredible website. Incredible things that he's doing. Nico, anything else before we sign off?
I am complete with it over at the site. They can find some free resources that will support them. There's a 30-day journaling challenge where they get a daily prompt and those sorts of things. So check it out if you're interested. But apart from that, I'm complete. Thank you very much. This is a pleasure and also an honor for myself as well.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you so much. All right, you guys, that's it. Episode 80. 80 episodes that we have done thus far. If you heard anything on here and you're like, man, I've listened to a bunch of your podcasts, I'm really curious about talking more, head on over www.proclivity.co. You can book a free clarity call with Emily and I to be able to talk about anything that you might be going through in your life, in your nutrition. And we are here to be able to help you create a healthier body and happier life. So if that's you, you're hearing that, reach out. We'd love to be able to talk to you. And until next time, Emily,
have the best day ever.
Best day ever, guys. See you next time.